Tomorrow isn't just another day. It's the day your ambition wakes up, the day the universe pushes you forward. There's a reason you've been feeling different lately. A little more restless than usual. A little more sensitive to everything around you. A little more aware of timing, people, conversations, and even silence. Like something inside you is gently pushing, pulling, redirecting you. But you can't fully explain it in words. You might even find yourself overthinking small things, replaying moments in your head, noticing patterns you used to ignore, or feeling like your intuition is louder than your logic right now. That's not confusion. That's not stress. That's not you losing control or being emotional for no reason. That's activation. A deeper internal shift is happening in your energy field, in your mindset, in your emotional awareness, and in the way you perceive your future. Because the energy surrounding you right now is not normal. It's not random. It's not ordinary or accidental. It's precise. It's intentional. It's aligned with timing, with cycles, with unseen transitions that you cannot always measure with logic alone. And it's finding specific people who have been through delays, emotional pressure, self-doubt, silent growth, and inner transformation that nobody else really saw. People like you. People who have been quietly evolving while life looked unchanged on the surface. And even if nothing outside looks different yet, inside you, something already is. You may feel like you're standing between two versions of yourself right now. One version that is familiar, comfortable, and tied to old habits, old fears, and old limitations, and another version that is emerging, stronger, clearer, more confident, and more aware of what you actually deserve. That tension you feel, that pull between staying the same and becoming something more, that is not random either. That is transformation trying to complete itself through you. Because life doesn't always announce change loudly. Sometimes it starts quietly, in thoughts, in energy shifts, in emotional restlessness, in sudden realizations, in the feeling that you can't go back to how you used to think or feel. And right now your awareness is expanding faster than your comfort zone. That's why things might feel slightly unstable, emotionally intense, or mentally active in ways you didn't expect. Not because something is wrong, but because something is aligning, something is preparing you, something is reorganizing your inner world so that your outer world can eventually follow. And even if you can't see the full picture yet, your energy already knows you are not the same person you were before. Right now, we are moving through powerful Aries energy. And Aries is not a passive sign. It doesn't wait. It doesn't pause for reassurance. It doesn't hesitate or second-guess every possibility until the moment is gone. It doesn't sit in comfort zones hoping life will eventually push it forward gently. It initiates. It begins. It moves first, even when the path ahead is unclear, even when certainty is missing, even when fear tries to slow everything down. Aries is the energy of the first spark, the raw moment where intention becomes direction, where thought becomes impulse, and where potential finally starts turning into motion. It carries the vibration of beginnings, breakthroughs, fresh starts, and sudden decisions that reshape everything that comes after. Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet of action, drive, courage, survival instinct, passion, and raw ambition. The planet that does not negotiate with hesitation. The planet that does not wait for perfect timing. The planet that doesn't ask whether you feel ready. It simply activates movement inside you. Mars is instinct. Mars is urgency. Mars is momentum. Mars is the inner force that pushes a person to stand up, decide, act, and step forward even when logic is still catching up. When this energy becomes active in your life, your mind begins to shift in subtle but powerful ways. You may notice impatience rising where there was once delay. You may feel a stronger urge to act instead of overthink. You may feel like staying in one place, mentally, emotionally, or physically, becomes harder than before. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for external validation. It doesn't pause to make sure everyone agrees with your direction. It pushes you forward. It forces movement. It creates internal pressure that turns stillness into discomfort and turns awareness into action. It demands change, not always in a chaotic way, but in a deeply necessary way that feels like life is correcting its own direction through you. And you may start noticing that situations you've been avoiding begin resurfacing. Decisions you've been postponing feel heavier. Thoughts you've been ignoring become louder. Because Aries energy does not allow stagnation to remain comfortable for long. It brings truth into motion. It brings clarity through pressure. It brings direction through urgency. And on April 14th, this energy reaches a powerful activation point where hesitation becomes increasingly difficult to sustain. It's not that choices are being forced upon you in an external sense, it's that internally, your tolerance for delay, avoidance, and uncertainty begins to decrease. What once felt easy to postpone now feels impossible to ignore. What once felt confusing now starts demanding clarity. What once felt distant now starts feeling immediate. It is as if the universe is accelerating your inner timeline, aligning you with a version of yourself that cannot remain in pause mode any longer. This is not just another astrological phase. This is not background cosmic influence passing quietly in the distance. This is ignition. A point of activation where inner energy becomes external movement, where awareness becomes decision, and where everything that has been building inside you finally starts to push toward expression. Think about what you've been going through. The delays that tested your patience in ways you didn't expect. The frustration that quietly built up inside you when things didn't move as quickly as you hoped. The moments where you felt completely stuck, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. Like no matter how much effort you gave, no matter how much you planned, tried, adjusted, or hoped, nothing seemed to shift. It felt like life was pressing pause on everything you cared about. Like your progress was invisible. Like your efforts were disappearing into silence. But even in that space of uncertainty, even in that heavy feeling of nothing is working, you didn't quit. You didn't walk away from yourself. You didn't abandon your path. You stayed. You kept showing up in your own way. You kept thinking, planning, learning, growing, even when growth didn't feel obvious. You pushed through doubt, through silence, through confusion, through moments where motivation disappeared and only discipline remained. Even when no one noticed, even when there was no applause, no validation, no reassurance from the outside world, even when it felt pointless, even when your mind tried to convince you that nothing would ever change, even when it felt like you were the only one still believing in something unseen. And now, something is beginning to shift, subtly at first, then more clearly, like a change in pressure in the atmosphere of your life, like movement returning to something that was frozen. The universe is responding, not because you suddenly asked louder, not because you changed overnight, but because something within you has already been built through persistence, patience, and endurance. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Through consistency, through resilience, through showing up when it was difficult, through continuing when it would have been easier to stop. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This isn't something random happening without reason or direction. This isn't magic appearing out of nowhere. This is alignment. This is timing finally meeting preparation. This is your effort, finally reaching the right moment in time. The moment where everything you've been building quietly starts to respond outwardly, where what you've been carrying internally starts to show external movement, where what felt delayed begins to unfold with purpose instead of resistance. This is not the beginning of your effort. This is the beginning of its return. That pressure you've been feeling, that subtle but constant sense of urgency building inside your chest, that inner restlessness that shows up when everything looks fine on the outside but doesn't feel settled within you, that voice inside you repeating the same message over and over again. Move. Change. Do something. Don't stay here. That's not random. That's not anxiety without meaning. That's not confusion or overthinking. That's Aries energy activating your next level. It is awakening a part of you that has been dormant, patient, or delayed for too long. It is pushing your awareness beyond comfort and into action, into clarity, into direction. And yes, it feels uncomfortable for a reason. Because growth is not designed to feel gentle when you are stepping out of old versions of yourself. Because transformation does not always arrive in silence, it sometimes arrives as pressure. Because staying where you are, mentally, emotionally, or even spiritually, is no longer an option your energy can comfortably maintain. Something in your life is reaching a breaking point. Not necessarily in a destructive way, but in a transformational way. A point where old patterns can no longer hold. A point where hesitation starts losing power. A point where the version of you that stayed stuck, stayed silent, or stayed uncertain begins to dissolve. And once it breaks, everything changes. Not just externally, but internally first. Your thinking shifts. Your priorities shift. Your emotional tolerance shifts. Your sense of direction becomes sharper, clearer, unavoidable. What once felt complicated begins to simplify into action or inaction. What once felt delayed begins to demand movement. What once felt distant begins to feel immediate. You can feel it. Even if nothing has fully changed on the outside yet, your internal world already knows something is different. Even if you can't explain it with words, logic, or certainty, your energy recognizes the shift. Your intuition recognizes the transition. Your awareness recognizes that you are standing at the edge of something new. It is like standing in the space between who you were and who you are becoming. And that space never feels fully comfortable, but it always feels significant. Because it is the space right before change becomes visible, right before decisions become real, right before life stops repeating the old cycle and starts moving into a new one. And that's why this feeling is growing stronger. Because you are no longer meant to remain still. Because something within you is aligning with motion again. Because the universe is not trying to slow you down anymore, it is preparing you to move. This is where things shift, not slowly, not gradually, but in a way that feels noticeable inside you before anything even changes outside of you. Suddenly, there is a sense of clarity that cuts through confusion like light breaking through heavy clouds. You begin to see things differently, not because the world changed overnight, but because you are no longer viewing it through the same mindset, the same hesitation, or the same emotional weight. What to do, what to stop delaying, what to prioritize without overthinking, where to go. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in your life direction. What needs to end? The habits, patterns, connections, thoughts, or cycles that have been quietly draining your energy for too long. And what needs to begin? The new decisions, the new direction, the new version of you that has been forming quietly underneath everything you've been going through. And it won't feel confusing in the same way anymore. It may still feel intense, but it becomes clearer with every passing moment. Opportunities may appear out of nowhere. Unexpected messages, sudden openings, new ideas, or situations that seem to align with what you've been thinking about internally for a long time. Conversations feel different too. People may say things that trigger realization, or you may suddenly understand the deeper meaning behind words that once felt ordinary. Decisions that once felt complicated begin to feel obvious. Not because life is easier, but because your awareness has expanded. This is the Aries awakening, a phase where inner fire turns into direction, where hesitation turns into movement, where silence turns into decision. It doesn't gently guide you like a soft suggestion. It doesn't slowly push you forward in a comfortable, predictable way. It launches you. It activates momentum in your life, whether you feel fully prepared or not. Because Aries energy is not about waiting for readiness. It is about creating readiness through action. The universe is not asking anymore. It is no longer waiting for you to decide indefinitely. It is aligning circumstances, timing, thoughts, and opportunities in a way that starts to move you forward, whether you resist or flow with it. It's pushing you into alignment, not through force in a destructive sense, but through momentum that becomes impossible to ignore, through situations that guide your attention, through feelings that redirect your focus, through timing that no longer allows delay to feel comfortable. And if you move with it, if you stop resisting what you already know internally, if you trust the clarity that is beginning to form inside you, this becomes your breakthrough. Not a small change, not a temporary shift, but a turning point where everything you've been feeling, sensing, and building inside you finally starts to manifest into visible transformation in your life. But listen carefully. Not everyone will use this energy. Not everyone will recognize what is happening beneath the surface of their life right now. Some will ignore it completely, brushing it off as coincidence, mood swings, stress, or just another normal phase in life. Some will doubt it, questioning whether anything is really changing at all, convincing themselves that nothing external is happening, so nothing internal must be happening either. Some will stay comfortable in what they already know, clinging to familiarity, routines, distractions, and old patterns that feel safe, even if they are no longer aligned with who they are becoming. And in doing so, they will miss the shift completely. Not because the shift wasn't real, not because the energy wasn't present, but because awareness was not activated in time. Because they chose familiarity over movement, comfort over expansion, delay over decision. Because Aries energy moves fast. It is not slow. It is not patient in the way hesitation is patient. It does not sit and wait for repeated confirmation. It does not pause endlessly while the mind tries to calculate every possible outcome. It does not slow down just because fear appears. It moves with momentum, with direction, with instinct, with a force that is designed to break stagnation, not support it. If you hesitate, you lose momentum, not in a dramatic instant, but gradually, quietly, through missed timing, delayed action, postponed decisions, and opportunities that begin to shift away from your current state of readiness. And once momentum is lost, it is not always easy to rebuild in the same exact form. Because energy is timing, and timing does not stay still. And this moment passes, not in theory, not as a warning meant to create fear, but as a natural law of movement, change, and transformation. What is available now may not be available in the same way later. What feels aligned today may feel distant tomorrow if not acted upon. What feels open right now may begin to close if it is not acknowledged or used. This is why awareness matters in this moment. This is why action matters. This is why hesitation has such a strong impact under this kind of energy. Because Aries energy is not here to wait for perfect emotional readiness. It is here to initiate movement, to trigger decisions, and to push life forward whether comfort agrees or not. And those who understand this, those who recognize the pressure not as confusion, but as direction. Those who move instead of pause. They do not just experience change, they step into it. So here's what you need to do. First, ground yourself, not in a complicated or forced way, but in a simple return to the present moment where your awareness comes back into your body instead of racing ahead into fear, overthinking, or uncertainty. Take a moment, pause everything else for just a few seconds. Let the noise in your mind settle, even if only slightly. Breathe, slow, steady, intentional breaths that bring you back into your center, back into your own energy, back into the space where your intuition is louder than your anxiety. Feel your body. Notice your heartbeat, your posture, the weight of your presence in this moment, the fact that you are here, alive, aware, and capable of choosing what happens next. Because clarity does not come from chaos. It does not come from rushing. It does not come from forcing answers out of confusion. Clarity comes in stillness, in the space where you stop reacting and start observing, in the moment where your inner noise quiets just enough for truth to rise. Then, pay attention. Not casually, not half distracted, but with awareness that something meaningful may show up in subtle ways. Any idea, any thought that suddenly appears without effort, any impulse that feels slightly stronger than your usual habits, any sudden realization that interrupts your normal pattern of thinking, any feeling that pushes you toward a decision you've been avoiding or postponing. That's your signal, not random, not meaningless, not something to ignore or delay until later. That's your internal alignment speaking to you through intuition, timing, and awareness. Act on it. Not someday. Not when everything feels perfect. Not when fear disappears completely. Immediately. In whatever small way you can, start moving in that direction instead of analyzing it endlessly. Don't wait for perfect conditions, because perfect conditions rarely exist in real time. They are often an illusion created by hesitation, fear of mistakes, or the need for control. Aries doesn't work like that. It doesn't wait for everything to feel safe, certain, or fully prepared. It doesn't pause life until every detail is aligned. It moves, it initiates, it responds to instinct over hesitation. It chooses action over endless thinking. It rewards movement. Not perfect movement, not flawless decisions, but movement itself. Because under Aries energy, momentum is more powerful than perfection, and direction is more important than delay. The universe is not random. It does not operate through chaos without meaning, and it does not place people in moments of awareness without purpose or direction. Everything unfolds in patterns, timing, cycles, and energetic alignment that often become clear only when you are inside the experience, not before it happens. What may feel sudden to the mind has often been building for a long time beneath the surface of your life, quietly shaping your awareness, your emotions, your decisions, and your inner growth. It doesn't make mistakes. Nothing you are experiencing right now is accidental or misplaced in your journey. Even the uncomfortable parts, even the uncertain phases, even the moments where you felt lost or stuck, all had a role in preparing you for this exact level of awareness. What seemed delayed was not denied. What felt silent was not absent. What felt like waiting was actually preparation happening in a way you could not always see. And it doesn't wake people up without a reason. Awareness is not random. It is selective, timing-based, and deeply connected to internal readiness. When life begins to feel different, when your thoughts begin to shift, when your perception starts to expand, it is not happening by chance. It is because something within you is being activated at the exact moment it is meant to be activated, aligning you with a version of yourself that is no longer meant to stay dormant or unaware. If this energy found you, it's because you're ready. Not ready in a perfect, fully confident, completely fearless way, but ready in a deeper sense. Ready in a way that your past experiences, struggles, lessons, and inner growth have already prepared you for, even if you don't fully recognize it yet. Ready in the sense that staying the same is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. Ready to move, to step out of delay, hesitation, and uncertainty, and begin acting on what you already feel inside. Movement does not always mean drastic change. Sometimes it begins as a small decision, a shift in mindset, or a single action that starts a chain reaction in your life. Ready to act. Not just think, not just plan, not just imagine, but translate awareness into action, intention into direction, and feeling into progress. Because awareness without action remains incomplete energy. Ready to become the version of yourself you've been building toward in silence. The version of you that has been forming quietly, through experiences no one else fully saw, through private struggles, through internal battles, through moments of self-reflection, growth, and resilience. The version of you that has been developing even when life looked still on the outside. You didn't come this far for nothing. Every step, every delay, every challenge, every breakthrough, every moment you continued, even when it was difficult, has been shaping something meaningful within you. None of it was wasted. None of it was empty. Even what felt like failure was part of the process that brought you to this level of awareness. This moment is your turning point, a point where awareness begins to shift into direction, where internal readiness begins to translate into external movement, and where everything you have experienced starts to converge into a decision point that can no longer be ignored. The only question is, will you move with it? Will you align with what is unfolding, trust the momentum building inside you, and allow yourself to step forward even if everything is not fully clear yet? Or will you watch it pass? Will you remain in observation while the opportunity for transformation moves forward without you, becoming another moment remembered instead of lived? The choice is not about perfection. It is about participation in your own evolution. If this message reached you at the right time, subscribe for more and comment below, "I'm ready." Because once you say it, you commit to it. The universe is moving. Now, it's your turn.